It's the middle of the night, and you're out on the water, on a cozy, luxurious sailing yacht just off the coast of a Caribbean island. The sea is very calm, so you can sleep soundly and peacefully. But suddenly, you jolt awake. You hear the anchor alarm, just a routine thing that almost every boat owner is familiar with. You get up to take care of it. But then you realize something is wrong. Your partner, who was on the boat with you, has disappeared. You search the entire ship, but it's in vain. All her belongings are still there. Only your girlfriend has vanished. What do you do then? And what do you do when the Coast Guard demands an explanation from you? Sam Heslop is described by her friends as a free spirit. In 2019, she left her hometown of Southampton, England, and set off across the vast ocean. Together with friends, she sailed across the Atlantic. Sam used to work as a flight attendant and has always loved to travel. But this is a whole different ballgame. Yet she loves a challenge, especially when it involves discovering new places. Together with two friends, the 40-year-old spends an extended period in the Caribbean: St. Lucia, Guadeloupe, Dominica, Martinique. Sam and her friends really treat themselves for a few months and enjoy the Caribbean scenery. And quite unexpectedly, something else comes up for Sam on the other side of the world. She meets American Ryan Bane on Tinder. He's been living in the Caribbean for a while and makes his money by renting out his luxury yacht to wealthy tourists. In 2020, the two start dating casually, but after just 3 months, they both realize it's serious. Sam decides to join Ryan's business. She can start working on the yacht as a chef. Sam has dreamed of striking out on her own as a chef, and now, all of a sudden, everything is falling into place. She gets to do her dream job, is newly in love, and all against an absolutely stunning backdrop. The Siren's Song is a yacht about 40 meters long, and the lifestyle that comes with it is, of course, unbeatable. Sailing from island to island, relaxing on deck in the evenings, and getting to know vacationers from all over the world. But Sam won't be able to live her dream for long, because in March 2021, something mysterious happens. Something that, to this day, no one can quite explain. On March 7, 2021, Sam and Ryan are enjoying a relaxed evening on the island of St. John, part of the U.S. Virgin Islands and home to just under 4,000 residents. Sam and Ryan go out to eat at the 422 Center restaurant on the island. They don't want to spend the night on the mainland. After all, Ryan's yacht is fully equipped. They have to be back on the boat by 10 p.m. At the time, there is a curfew in the Virgin Islands due to the pandemic. The yacht is anchored off Cruz Bay, about 60 meters from the coast. That's why Ryan and Sam have to take a dinghy from the mainland to the yacht. But something terrible happens on the Siren's Song that night. Ryan calls the Coast Guard at 11:46 a.m. on the morning of March 8th. He explains that his girlfriend apparently went overboard the night before. He says he woke up around 2 a.m. to the sound of the anchor alarm. This alarm goes off as soon as the boat drifts slightly. Ryan then noticed that Sam was no longer on the boat, even though all her personal belongings were still there: cell phone, wallet, passport. But if you've just done the math, you're probably wondering, Ryan noticed at 2 a.m. that Sarm was no longer there, but didn't call the Coast Guard until more than 9 hours later? The explanation for this, according to Ryan, is a misunderstanding. He had already contacted the police around 2:30 a.m. The police state that a patrol car passed by at 2:44 a.m. after Ryan dialed 911. But, well, when someone disappears on the water, there's only so much police officers on land can do. So, according to the police, the officers told Ryan to notify the Coast Guard. The problem is that Ryan says he understood that the police would contact the Coast Guard. That's why he didn't reach out to the Coast Guard all night. It wasn't until 11:46 a.m. that he called again to check in. The Coast Guard said in a statement that, ultimately, when a person is missing, the responsibility always lies with the captain. In that moment, every minute counts. Waiting 9 hours, therefore, reduces the chance of finding a person in the water. The fact is, therefore, that the Coast Guard didn't begin searching for Sam Heslop until around noon. By then, she had already been missing for 11 hours. I don't think I need to tell you that, after such a long time, one unfortunately has to assume the worst, and that Ryan's behavior makes many people very, very skeptical. Ryan himself has not spoken to the media to this day. 4 years after Sarm's disappearance, her lawyer spoke about the case for the first time. David Caddy is a renowned defense attorney who, among others, had Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein's accomplice, as a client. According to him, Ryan suspects that Sarm might have hit her head and then fallen into the water. That would explain why she might not have been able to save herself as her abilities would have suggested. According to her family, Sarm was actually a very good swimmer. The water was calm on the night of her disappearance. It is strange that she did not make it back on board the boat or to John's shore, even though it was, of course, completely dark. Ryan refused to allow the police to search his yacht. This is permitted under the Fourth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. It prohibits searches or seizures on private property, including yachts, unless certain legal requirements are met, typically a search warrant based on reasonable suspicion. But in this case, neither a search warrant was issued nor was there probable cause. The Coast Guard only inspected the boat for safety regulations. No forensic evidence or anything of the sort was secured. Whether there might have been a fight on board, whether someone had lost blood there, none of that was ever investigated. And this despite the fact that Ryan had a prior conviction for domestic violence. He had beaten his ex-wife, to whom he had been married for 3 years starting in 2011, and choked her until she lost consciousness. For that, he had to serve 60 days in prison. A criminal record alone doesn't make anyone guilty, but coupled with his questionable behavior, it doesn't exactly paint Ryan in a favorable light. A few days after Sarm's disappearance, a witness reported that he had been outside with his dog again on the night of March 7th to 8th. Around 2 a.m., while walking along Cruz Bay, he heard a scream. That is roughly the time Sarm is believed to have disappeared. Whether this scream came from Sarm can only be speculated upon. Due to the sluggish police investigation, there were hardly any witness interviews. And if witnesses on nearby boats or at the harbor may have heard something but did not proactively contact the police, we will unfortunately never know. Ryan no longer lives in the Virgin Islands. He left 5 weeks after his girlfriend's disappearance. The yacht, Siren Song, was put up for sale in November 2021. The boat's name had been painted over beforehand, and the freezer and parts of the forward cabin had been replaced. Sam's mother, Brenda, says she realizes her daughter is no longer alive. But Brenda's main concern is finding out exactly what happened. She feels she can't truly grieve until she has certainty. Sarm's family has leveled serious accusations against the police in the Virgin Islands. Sarm's parents say the police showed them video footage of Sarm and Ryan leaving the restaurant on St. John. These are the last images in which their daughter can be seen. According to the parents, however, the police did not show them the entire video, but stopped it at a certain point in case they might want to use the footage in a future trial. Sarm's parents were not told what is shown in the rest of the video. Ryan had actually said that Sarm was last seen wearing a black dress with a floral pattern. In the video, however, she is wearing a top and a skirt or shorts. The black dress was not among Sam's personal belongings that her family received back. It is unknown whether the police withheld it for any reason. There was no search of the boat, no questioning of Ryan as a possible suspect, and not even any consequences for his failure to call the Coast Guard again that night. In 2025, 4 years after Sarm's disappearance, the BBC commissions a documentary on the case. So a journalist travels to the Caribbean to investigate on the ground. And that sets things in motion, because the police on the island are surprisingly cooperative. The investigators admit they're at a dead end. That's why they also give the journalist the complete surveillance video, which had remained unpublished until then. The police spokesperson says there's no reason not to make the footage available to the public. Maybe someone will be able to spot something that the police have missed so far. What can be seen in the video itself isn't all that exciting at first glance. You see Ryan and Sarm walking to the dinghy and getting in. What is very exciting, however, is the timestamp on the footage. Ryan gave the Coast Guard various accounts of the sequence of events that evening. Most documents state that, according to Ryan, he and Sarm returned to the yacht around 10 p.m., but the camera's timestamp shows that the couple left the dinghy dock at Cruz Bay at 8:45 p.m. It likely took them about 10 minutes to get there in the small dinghy. So what happened in the hour between 9 and 10 p.m.? Ryan's lawyer attributes the inconsistent timeline to the stress Ryan experienced following Sarm's disappearance. That makes perfect sense. Realizing in the middle of the water that your partner has gone overboard must be terrible. No one who hasn't been in that situation can say for sure what they would do. But I think many of us would have a similar impulse, to get help from whoever we could. Ryan said he realized Sam was missing around 2 a.m. Fortunately, there were 2 other boats in Franks Bay that night, but Ryan never asked them for help. The owners of both boats independently stated that Ryan did not alert them, neither that night nor the following morning, that his girlfriend had gone missing from the boat. And this despite the fact that it is customary among boaters to sound the alarm immediately if someone goes overboard. But here too, one can raise an objection. Just because Ryan didn't follow protocol doesn't necessarily mean he has something to hide. And while Ryan didn't make himself known to the other boat owners, he did call the police at 2:35 a.m. And then there was this alleged misunderstanding regarding alerting the Coast Guard. But even if he thought the police would handle it, 9 hours is a very long time to wait without checking in. It's also not known whether Ryan went out to search for Sarm himself in the meantime. As the BBC reported in the summer of 2025, Ryan was never questioned by the police. Of course, he provided some information, but there was no proper, critical interrogation. According to the current state of the investigation, he is the only person who had contact with Sarm that night. That's why it makes perfect sense that the police are treating him as a person of interest, but not as a suspect. The case is still being treated as a missing person case. Her relatives, however, are demanding that the homicide division get involved. They are certain that it isn't Sarm who has disappeared here, but her body. A police spokesperson for the Virgin Islands says investigators would like to speak with Ryan, but as long as there is no concrete suspicion against him, they can't force him to do so, especially not if he isn't on the Virgin Islands. As long as Ryan stays away from the Caribbean islands, he may never be questioned again in the Sam Heslop case. I think the case would never have become so mysterious if Ryan hadn't behaved so strangely. Even if he really thought the police would notify the Coast Guard, he must have noticed that no one came. And when you know your own girlfriend is in mortal danger, do you wait a full 9 hours to check in again? It's clear that this seems strange to many people. On top of that, he didn't want the yacht searched and sold it shortly afterward. But as suspicious as all of this seems, it doesn't prove anything. Either Sam Heslop died in a tragic accident, or the person she trusted most committed the perfect crime. Do you think this case can still be solved? Or do you think there's nothing to solve, and that Sam simply fell overboard tragically? I'm looking forward to reading your theories. Plus, you'll be supporting the channel in the process. Other than that, there isn't much more to say. I wish you a good morning, afternoon, or evening, whichever time you're watching this, and hope to see you again in the next video. Until then, ciao everyone.